Hey everyone, Nick Engvall here. Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about some of the people that make the sneaker history community and this podcast possible. It's more important than ever to think about who you give your money to when you're buying clothing to go with your kicks. Our friends at Guilty Goods started their brand with a goal of giving back, especially to the communities that make sneaker culture possible. With every purchase from Guilty Goods, at least 10% of the proceeds are donated to organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the Susan G. Komen Foundation, the Movement for Black Lives, and many more. You can save 30% on your order by using the code HISTORY at guiltygoods.us. Again, that's history at guiltygoods.us for 30% off, and you can feel good about your purchase knowing you're supporting a meaningful cause. Sneakers are all about presentation, and if you're like me, displaying your kicks at home or in the office is just as important as when they're on your feet. Sneaker Throne makes sneaker display cases featuring customizable LED lights, drop-side cases to showcase the entire side of the shoe, not just the heel or the toe, the whole shoe. They've also got display cases for trading card collectors and hat collectors. To me, it's the perfect way to display your collection. You can save at least 10% on your Sneaker Throne order by using the code HISTORY at sneakerthrone.com. That's history at sneakerthrone.com. If you're a Patreon supporter or a member of our Discord community, you already know about Kicks with V hot sauce and his small batch, locally sourced hot sauce. V has been one of the biggest supporters of sneaker history and the podcast since the early days. He's currently the defending champion in our community trivia nights competition. Kicks with V hot sauce has been a huge hit with the community. You can save 10% on your order by using the code SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. That's SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. Now, you're probably here because you like sneakers, and if you join the Discord, you know our community is about so much more than that. Whether it's the marathon-like community calls, trivia night debates, the in-person meetups, or just sharing our favorite experiences, we found that although we have such different backgrounds, we all have some unexpected shared passions. Not only does the entire community look out for each other when it comes to releases, we're like a support group for life in general. You can join the Discord community for free by heading to the show notes of this episode. After you're done listening to this episode, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Now let's get into today's episode.
Jordan trying to shake off Starks. Oh, what a
LeBron James with no regard for human life. Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Iverson against Gill, the crowd on its feet. Allen for the win.
Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Sneaker History Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Swagadosis, if you will, Oscar Castillo, owner, founder of Modern Notoriety, your favorite Instagram page, your favorite. I'll say this out loud. Modern Notoriety is a page I go to every morning and just have a little smile, or maybe at the end of the day, have a little chuckle. It's really easy to repost. It's all the stuff I love. You are a lot of the stuff I love, Mr. Oscar. So I'm very happy you could be here with me.
Thank you for having me.
We're just going to talk about
so.
basic stuff. Yeah, we know each other for a long time. That's what's so cool about positive sneakertivity. That's a new word, sneakertivity. When you're just nice to people and man, shit just works out. You meet the right kind of people. On that note, man, tell our listeners, where you're from. How about this? I think I know some of the answers, but where you're from, your favorite Jordan model, and it's like one of your favorite sneakers that isn't a Jordan. This doesn't have to be all time, but what's a sneaker you love? Where are you from?
All right. Originally born in El Salvador. My mother and I came here during the war, early 90s. There was a civil war back where I'm from. And came here to Chicago, man. And it was I came here at a very young age and raised here. Favorite Jordan. Probably I'm gonna say favorite Jordan with the colorway, because my favorite Jordan is the Shadow 10, right? But
beautiful.
If I said Jordan 10, I don't want you to assume this is the Steel 10. I want to be very specific, right?
Yeah, no.
But my all-time favorite shoe, man, honestly, it probably have to be the Air Force One High Bobito mac and cheese. That whole play.
Ooh.
Yeah, that whole play on the mac and cheese and even the beef and broccoli at that time. It was a good time for Air Force One highs. If you look back to even the sheets, man, like Rose Garden, all the patent joints were very, very nice colorways.
And what's so wild is like so many cats nowadays would be like, oh, that's just like kind of like a wheat Air Force One high, right? And I feel like there's been so many iterations of shoes. That's one of the all-time gems. Shout out Bobito, just one of the true OGs of the game. I think you and I probably both came up just reading him, right? Or taking him in any level. But then he has so many shoes people forget about, bro. Like
yeah. That whole pack, man. I mean, like, there was like it was a good time for storytelling and basketball footwear, because there was also like this like Philly packer. It was like it was a bunch of Air Force One highs that dropped around that time, and then there was also like I think it was On Your Feet Kid too. That I think Undefeated, was that Undefeated?
the Bobito, the high top one you're talking about, it's like an all blue joint with a white swoosh, I think.
Yeah. But
there's one of them. There's so many damn Bobitos, man, in a good way.
But at the same time, around that time, Undefeated did like they were doing their own version of the Air Force One. It was like, I think it was Eddie Cruz. I'm not sure, but it said On Your Feet Kid on the I said it on the midsole. Do you remember that?
I think we're talking like 07, 08, like around 07, 09 in that range.
Yeah. So around that time frame, like Bobito and other people were coming out with some fire ass colorways. It was a good time, man, for Air Force Ones.
Man, it's really interests me that like you go to that particular time in sneakers, because I feel like 09 to when like the Galaxy foam came out in 2011, 2012, like that's a time where it's just like sneakers were big enough for like young cats like us to be enjoying them, and for the OGs too, but for it to still be small enough to where it's not, the craziness it is now. Like there was still heat dropping them, like super heat, but like it's a weird good time to be into shoes at that point.
For sure. I mean, it wasn't always in front of you, right? Like you'd look forward to going to a store. You'd look forward to going to a mom and pop shop and going to their basement. But so many things have changed in the industry where it's like you open up social media, the first thing you see is a sneaker. So.
And what's wild to that, like the homie Peter Very, one of his favorite shoes when I went and saw him, he's wearing this Blazer Deconstruct, like a big swoosh Nike Blazer he got from like Finish Line at a mall. He wears it nonstop. He's like, this is one of my favorite shoes I've picked up in a hot minute. And I just like walked into a store and I bought it. There was nothing to it. That's the story. I bought a pair of shoes. And that shit was sick. So, I mean, when did you start? Right, like, when did you start getting into, I would say, the scene, right? Either writing about shoes, posting, we're talking 07, 09 during these Bobitos, but when did you start putting your contribution in?
Man, so I was like 15 at the time, bro. It was like 2004-ish, 2005-ish. And, there was this dude that put me onto Nike Talk, and I would always spend my like days there. I mean, this was like I would use like the college campus cafeteria. I went to community college for like a year or a few months, and it didn't work out for me. But the time that I was there, I would be on the boards, like it was ISS, it was Nike Talk, and I noticed that there was a lot of press on different cities, just never Chicago. And it's like, dude, like we're like the mecca of like in my opinion. I mean, like, as far as Jordan culture, right? Like Jordan collectors, it's definitely like it started here. And I didn't see any press on Chicago, so I hit up Brian from Sneaker Files, and I was like, look, man, I really want to put on for the city. I have a camera and a voice recorder that I could use to go to these different stores and capture these stories. And that's what I did, man. That's how I made a name for myself in the city. And then people started to hear my name, and fucking the first Dunk Exchange in Chicago came here, and I set it up with those dudes. And then the first Sneaker Pimps came here. I set it up with those dudes. So I was kind of doing what I did. Like it just felt right. It just made sense,
Mm-hmm. Man, people don't really understand the full story. I think sneakers starts with Michael Jordan. Obviously, there were shoes way before then, but like without Michael Jordan and that red, white, and black, those Bulls colors, there is no, we're not on a fucking podcast right now talking if he doesn't do that in that city.
Right, exactly. And it was the first numbered series that you would pay attention to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like, oh, like when you start calling shoes by numbers, the threes, or you know what I'm saying? That kind of just you program yourself to expect the next one. So the 5s and the 6s, the 7s, the 8s, 9s, 10s. And that became a huge thing in the city. I mean, I remember like growing up, there were cats that were wearing a bread on one foot and a Space Jam on the other. Like it was crazy. like that mixed match shit was like happening, bro. It was there. And then
Man. Please tell me that fool had like one shorter leg than the other. Just like the setup of having that tooling does not match up. But I've seen people do that too, especially at events, right?
Yeah,
people are wild.
They were flexing, man. Like I remember, like my mother and I, we had to move around a lot because of our situation, and we ended up in different places in the city. And I remember like the dope boys, man, they were wearing one bread and one Space Jam and shit. And it was just like, well, that's crazy. Cause it's like at the time, right, 11s were like everything. And so, you know, to see like that just took it up. Like that just took a step, like took
further, right?
A step higher and shit. Like, damn, that's crazy. But yeah, like going back to Sneaker Files though, I did my stint with them. And then got my job at a sneaker boutique, man, because I really wanted to learn the business and just understand how things are, like, you know, wholesale and all that shit. And I worked at two sneaker stores, Subconscious, and then the Ken, and then left the Ken, and then ended up with Modern Notoriety. You know, I was building that shit in the stockroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, that's the things that happen, the ideas that happen in a stockroom, like. You get in your brain in a good and a bad way sometimes. It's like being back there, but people don't understand there's like so much more to shoes than basically what I'm getting to is like stock and numbers and it's like fulfillment and wholesale. Like there's so much people don't keep in mind.
And I'm very grateful, and I'm sure you feel the same way, that we came up in an era where camping was still a thing, right? Because you can meet people, not know each other at all, but sneakers was that one thing in common that made you comfortable enough to talk to that person. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, especially at that point, I mean, you saw somebody, you know, let's just say 08 with a pair of, you know, at that point, mid-top Chicago ones on, like, you know, they're with the shits because not everybody's just wearing Chicago ones and not everybody's just rocking sneakers like that. So it was a good identifier to be like, all right, are you walking in the mall to the same store I'm going to? We're both about to get in line right now. I'm going to stand next to you for the next fucking 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever it's going to be.
Or even seeing cats in like Easters and fucking, like, you know what I'm saying? Like World Cup pack, right? Like Mexico Air Force Ones, like, you know, like all the patent joints that came out in like, you know, 06, 07, like, you know, you would camp out with these dudes and they'll have some really fire shit on, you know? And I remember camping out for, I think it was like 2006 it was September. I think it was September 30th, 2006, Air Jordan 5 Grape. It was a good ass weekend, bro. And I think on the same day, Union had dropped their one time only pack. I think it was like the Air Max 360. I remember seeing cats wearing them shits in line, bro. It was such a flex. Like, it was so dope. And I was just a kid, like, wow, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, it was just so exciting.
That's what's so different. I mean, there's many things that are different, but like two big, crazy different points is one, people wearing their heat. Now it's like, oh, I got those in the closet. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, like, why aren't they on the street? You know, in the closet's different. Doesn't mean anything really. You have so much heat in your closet. It's like, it doesn't mean anything until it's on foot. But it's just wild to think about stuff like that.
Well, what's crazier is that like the stuff that you're keeping in your closet eventually is going to come back out. And so even if you wanted to get rid of that pair that you have in your closet, now the value has decreased because the new pair came out and it's like truer shape and all, you know, all this other stuff. So I'm learning. I was like a hoarder, bro. I would get like 2 or 3 pairs. I had a really bad problem, like, of the same thing. Yeah.
We now learned that, but OGs never had to deal with that because it's like there wasn't the competition for that retro coming back out. Like, for an easy example, when the Carmine 6 came out, I sold my 2014s that were like 9.9 out of 10. I had to sold them for like retail. And that's like during the Last Dance, right? Shit was going crazy, but it's the old Carmine. No one wants the old Carmine. They want the new Carmine.
Yeah. Even if like, I think the Carmine was also in the CDP pack, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Many times.
I remember cats were trying to move that one too. And their pair was less because the 14 one came out.
Mm-hmm.
So it just little shit like that I started to notice that I should just like let go of a lot of shit because I knew it was going to come back later, you know?
That was a weird time because almost all of those CDP pack shoes like got a retro like a couple years later because it's like, all right, I want to put these together to make the numbers work, you know, to make the math work. And then fuck, okay, let's retro it again. Like the Bread 4. Yeah, Bread 4 was like 08 and then like 2012 or 13. Yeah, 11, 12, 13, yeah, right in that range. And it's like, why are you doing this? I mean, so you were so good about obviously knowing your sneakers, but I think what makes Modern Notoriety much different is your incorporation of just like everything else other people like too. And I think you were one of the first places to offer something like that. Because when I see like, and I'm not gonna throw shades. I follow this account and I like it. Like the 1990 account, like 90s, whatever. 90s nostalgia or something, but he likes sneakers too. So he's always posting like his little New Balances and stuff and his little like neutral dunks. And that's cool. But I'm there for like the 90s retro photos. I'm not like, I don't want sneakers here. Like, why is this here? It doesn't feel organic. But Modern Notoriety's always had that really good mix of culture and footwear culture, right? It's just like, how'd you find that mix? And like, what are some of your biggest interests that made that? Like, are you a really big anime fan over like music? Like how did that all come together? Because you kill it.
Man, so like I got to a point where there were way too many sneaker sites, man. And everyone was either posting the same shit or, you know, like no site was different than the other. But
yeah,
you know, you had your big dogs in the game, but everyone was just sharing the same thing. So I was like, you know what? I named it Modern Notoriety because I didn't want to just stay in the sneaker lane. I kind of had that foresight. I didn't want to limit myself in case the time came where I was like, okay, I did it with the sneakers, but now I can incorporate different things. But what really did it for me was when like the corporate backed sneaker blogs started to come into play. And when I saw that, I was like, it was just a change, right? Where
it was like this.
Yeah,
instantly you felt it.
You knew where it was headed. You're right. Yeah, you knew where it was headed. Like there was like a lot of cats that started like at the very like built the foundation for this shit, which it was mini blogs. But as soon as I saw corporate interest enter the blog space as a sneaker blog, I was like, no, we got to change it up. So, you know, I just kind of started to incorporate different things that, you know, I was into, and then, you know, having interns, you know, being educated on you know, on their life and like what they were into. So it was kind of like a mix of things. And so I'm really glad that I made that decision because it's hard to change a pattern when you're used to doing something for so many years, and you know, it's kind of like you're iffy about it because you don't know what can go wrong or what can go good. But in the beginning, I was a little bit scared, and eventually it worked out, man. And, you know, fast forward to this year, you know, we were able to build a solid fan base and people actually fuck with it, man.
Man, so heavily they mess with Modern Notoriety. I mean, let me just think about this. So, I mean, you were raised in Chicago, and I'm just going to put this out there. So I know you've shot him a couple times with the camera. Like, I think Kanye was one of that, not the first dude, because obviously, you know, many rappers before him were making, you know, method, you know, I can go on and on who, but many people were making references to the movies and TV shows and stuff they liked in their raps. But I think Kanye was the first person to be like, all right, I love Akira so much. It's going to be my fucking music video. I'm going to have a sneaker that kind of plays with it. I'm going to like mix all of my passions into one thing. And then the people, like, they're going to love it or hate it. Luckily, they love it. So, like, do you kind of does I kind of look at you that way? Not like you're Kanye, you know, but what I'm trying to say, like, you put everything together, right? Like, do you ever think of him like in that term, like inspirationally, or like you could say no, fuck that guy? But I'm just curious because you mix it so well,
Yeah, I
kind of
think
like he does.
there's always a stigma with shit like that, right? Like anime and video gaming. Like video gaming, the way that it is now, it was never like that. If you played video games, you were a fucking nerd. Like you were lame. That's how society viewed it. You were burning your brain. You were wasting your time. With anime, only weebs, nerds, and fucking like, you know. So there was always that stigma to it. But I low key always loved it because, you know, I grew up with this shit, and a lot of us did, but a lot of us weren't really outspoken that we were into it because, you know, it was just a weird time, right? And it was only a select few individuals that were into it, and maybe you didn't know that maybe they were out there. The conversation just never came up. But I think what Kanye did was he made people realize that like anime is fire, so that opened up people's eyes to actually be interested, to give it time and attention. And with all of his Akira references, I mean, he kind of just solidified like anime as a respected art form. And now you have athletes. Fucking Zion just had that Naruto pack. You know what I'm saying? Like, like there's so many people that are on it now, and which is great, which is dope. Traditionalists though, fucking hate it. Like you'll always see, like you'll get your comment like, "Oh man, like stop posting anime," or like, you know what I'm saying? Like you'll always get your traditional like manga book collector, but the shit's changing, bro. You can't gatekeep shit forever. So
of course Zion would say Naruto's his favorite. It's like, well, what's wrong with that? I like Naruto. Have you not seen Naruto? Like the person himself in the show. Like you're not a noob or fronting if you like Naruto. Like he's a beast.
Yeah. And Cartoon Network. I mean, like fucking Toonami, bro. Like that shit's like that. You will always remember that.
Always. I mean, I never really thought about this as an adult, but there was definitely a friend I had in like the early stages of high school where we would watch Naruto, and I wanted to like become more, you know, be cooler. So like I would hang out with different people, and I stopped messing with him, and the new people didn't watch Naruto, so I would still watch it like alone, right? Like privately, like, you know, like I'm doing something bad, like, oh shit, they're gonna find out.
At the time, it just had that bad stigma to it, you know, and as shit like Kanye being into Akira comes out, like you start to realize like, man, this shit is dope. Like there's nothing like anime, bro. Like even like they can't be replicated.
Yo, what's wild is when you really think about it, we used to kind of like hide our shoe love back in like, you know, high school, middle school, be like, oh, this weirdo with all these sneakers. Girls would be like, oh, this weirdo with all the shoes. Now the girls want you to buy them the dunks.
Yeah,
like,
same
what?
thing, bro. Same thing. Like, man, I remember being into sneakers and I'd get like these like comments like, oh, what are you, a girl? Why do you like so many shoes? You know what I'm saying? Like, but what made me appreciate it though was that there was like a culture that it was like underground, but it was like there. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew that I belonged to something, you know, and I have this, you know, this hobby of collecting sneakers, and I knew for sure this shit was gonna blow up. I knew for sure. It was tough at the very beginning because nobody took you seriously. You know what I mean? Like when you brought it up in conversations and shit, or like, oh, what are your interests? Oh, I like collecting sneakers. Like what? Like it wasn't a common thing. And you know, me
it's like, boy, get out of here.
Yeah. Like people didn't really see it as like a respectable hobby, right? And then, you know, between 2011 and forward, man, that was it. Now everybody's trying to be a part of it.
Everyone, but what's really cool is like you don't, and modern notoriety as a whole doesn't really gatekeep that away. So, and I bring that up because you guys do, and when the world's health and safety allows, you guys put on really good events for like communities where it's like, I feel like you guys don't care if it's like somebody brand new with sneakers at one of your event or an old ass person, just like if you care. So tell me about those. Like, tell me about some of the events you've done and like why you do those.
Man, I'm really big like on like community and inclusivity, bro. Like I really think that like it's very important to see, like you can't gatekeep shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't do that. And I even remember back in the day, a lot of the older sneaker collectors in Chicago would get pissed off at me for writing an article on a spot that they would go to because they felt like I was blowing their spot up, and it was just very weird vibes and shit. Like I was a kid with a camera, like nobody really fucked with me.
Yeah.
because of that, right? Like, who is this kid? And it was like, okay, well, he's coming into our realm. He's coming, you know what I mean? That kind of shit. So, I started doing these community events because I love shooting product, right? So I was like, how can I take a piece of what I'm passionate about and then take MN and then create something cool for people to be a part of? And that's what I did, man. So I started partnering up with brands, and we would have like a bunch of photographers, and they would shoot the product, and we would see the product in like 30 different, lenses, like 30 different ways, and create an art gallery out of it. And yeah, it became something that people could come and enjoy.
That's genius. Cause I mean, of course a brand could, and brands do pay you, hey, come shoot this new basketball shoe, Oscar. It's like, cool. But like to have one product and 30 different perspectives in one place, that's just like, that's next level thinking in my book.
Yeah. Cause I always thought that product isn't amplified enough. Like, you see a shoe, right? And then we just say, okay, it's just a pair of shoes. But that was someone's idea. Like, someone probably fucking sketched that shit out on a lunch break and was like, yo, this is it. And it became like the best fucking selling shoe ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think about it like that. And I was like, that's why I was like, it'd be really cool to see this product in like all these different ways, because I feel like anyone's idea deserves to be highlighted.
So how'd you go from this a kid with the camera and knowing OGs to having the skills good enough to now, I mean, you shoot Candace Parker, Derrick Rose. I know you shot Pharrell. You just shot a Dua Lipa event in Chicago recently. Like, how did that skill set go from I'm just going to pick up a camera to like, I'm now all pro product photographer Oscar?
I think, man, there was this line that Bobbito said in this documentary, that it was a PATA documentary that released, that got taken from the internet, but Bobbito was narrating some of it, and he was like, we reached a point where the owner and the consumer are one and the same. And what he meant was that sneaker store owners that are into sneakers are also consumers of the product they're selling, right? So to me, I applied that with MN because I am a consumer of the shit that I'm shooting. I'm shooting it the way that I would see product that would convince me to want to buy it. Because I don't know if you agree with me or not, but a lot of the people that are into footwear will purchase a shoe based off of how it looks, not a fucking e-com shot, not a digital rendering. If the shit looks really dope and authentic, you're going to want to buy it. So that's what kind of like pushed me to, approach things.
That's crazy perspective.
Yeah. And not only that, right? But like at the time too, at the very beginning of MN, right? I was using this thing called the eBay Partnership Network, and instead of using, and it would just be different posts that I would do on the site about a shoe being available on eBay. And instead of using fucking e-com shots, I would use shots from fucking, from like End Clothing or, some of the stores overseas, because they would have some really fire ass fucking product photography. And I would use that. And that's what would lead for us to sell so many units through that affiliate link. And I would test it out. I was like, okay, if I'm taking these images from these sites, I'm putting it on a post, I'm putting the affiliate link saying it's available on eBay. People are buying it because of the photo that the other store took that now I'm using in that post. And then I was kind of testing shit out. I was like, all right, what if I use actual e-com shots? Because I don't want to get in trouble by a store. And the post did terribly. It fucking did horrible. So that's when I learned that real product photography taken by, like, you got to know footwear, bro. Outsole, lateral, heel, fucking tongue, insole, like all that shit, bro. You got to really know that stuff to be able to know how to shoot. And those are the type of photos that I was sharing in that post, and people would buy the pairs on eBay, bro. And I wasn't even selling them. I was just sending eBay traffic.
Yeah. Bro, I'm laughing because like I need to learn, because I'll try to take photos of my shoe. Like Adidas has sent me some forums, so I'm gonna take a photo of the forum, but I cannot get the tongue to sit right when I'm trying to take the photo. So I'm sure you're stuffing it with like something to get it to sit right and everything. But like
clips.
so many conversations start with like, "Oh, those look fire on foot."
Yeah.
How many people say, "Oh man, that Nike.com image looks fire"? Like,
absolutely,
no,
absolutely, and what surprisingly, there are brands and individuals at those brands that still don't believe that those types of images are effective. A lot of people at brands have still use the old way of marketing, like the 90s way of marketing, and they're trying to apply it in a new era. Like the consumer has changed. The frequency on how we see product has changed. How we look at product, right? That's all changed. But there's a lot of people that work at brands that have those positions that still think that because they've done it for all these years, that's the proper way to do it. But then look what happens.
They fall off.
No storytelling, shitty visuals, CGI visuals, fucking the shit sits. And then when you're doing those numbers at the end of that fucking quarterly meeting.
Why is this not working? I mean, exactly. So if I may say it, I mean, obviously Adidas understands that then, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I see a lot of your photography product work with them particularly. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
So they get it, man. That shit look like I repost your stuff not because like, oh, I like Oscar, I'm gonna repost it. I like a lot of people, and I don't repost their stuff because it doesn't look good. Like yours legitimately looks like it's like and I'm sure this is happening. Like Derrick Rose is like on a basketball court in heaven, right? And it's like the right photo is being taken. It's like click. It's just like
yeah.
How did that happen though? Like, is it just like, oh, let's get a Chicago guy to take photos of the Chicago guy? Like but how did that happen? Because you've been doing it for years with him. Like how many years? Like probably 6 at least.
So I've been shooting with Adidas since like 2016, 2017.
Yeah, a minute.
Just because like I think because I just get the shit done, you know, like, and I know that they're going to use whatever the fuck I send them. So then I'm reliable.
Because you care.
Yeah, because I care. Why? Because the footwear is a part of me. I'm not just some random ass photographer. Like, right. See, the problem is today, bro, is that anyone with a camera can fucking shoot some damn shoes, but it doesn't mean that they're passionate about it. If they were to be tested and say, okay, listen, we need you to do this campaign on this shoe, you got to find the right athlete, the right athlete with the right width of the leg to fill in the shoe. Like it's just so much shit that goes into it, bro. You know, so I think that's the reason why I blasted. I could be wrong. I don't know, but with Derrick Rose,
I think you're right.
Like for real, bro. Like there's some shit that it's just a lot of people it's just a lot of shit that happens that they don't observe and realize, and which is why a lot of the content that the photographers submit they can't use it, you know. And a lot of photographers, they just want the bag, so they'll say yeah to a project, but once you do a shitty job, they're not ever going to hit you again. And a lot of these dudes, because of the money, they want the money, and instead of them saying, you know what, man, I'm just going to give it to someone that I know is passionate about sneakers, because I know if I fuck up, my reputation's on the line. And if I fuck up, they're never going to hit me again. So I'd rather give it to someone that will appreciate it, do a good job, and just, you know, wait for the universe to pay you back for the favor that you did for another photographer.
Get paid once and do it bad, or do it right and get paid 5 times, or pass it and get paid, you know, five times later.
Well, we live in such a, like everyone is obsessed with money, bro. Like it's insane. And when you start to do shit for money and not because you love it, you put yourself like at the bottom of the list type shit. But with Derrick Rose, yeah, opportunity just came up, man. Like I had seen him at Simeon when I was in high school. And I also saw him at the Chicago Skyplay, that new arena downtown. It was him against Evan Turner. Like bro, it was a crazy time, and I was always paying attention to that shit. Like I was always around it. Like whether it was like media on TV, like, or whether it was like old Complex magazines, or like whatever it was, like basketball. Like basketball was always around me, right? So I was paying attention to all this shit, and I got the opportunity, and I was like, damn, bro, I used to like go see you and shit. I used to be like in the hood, bro, like fucking taking the bus and shit, like all that shit, like going to fuck or taking the train or bus, train and bus to Simeon, man, and like, yeah, it was a different time socially in Chicago. It was crazy, but I just Adidas just hit me up and said, hey, man, like we need you to shoot this shit, and I was like, all right, cool, and then I had known his agent or his manager, whatever you want to call him, Art, for a long time, Art Bashkin. And Art has always welcomed me with open arms, and like he's always been a nice dude. So me knowing Art kind of solidified like the comfort, of
the partnership.
Yeah.
Bro, speaking of storytelling, and you would know firsthand, Adidas really pushed him being like the biggest thing out of, like, was before he was a Bull, was he really like all that? And like, because he's legendary, but what did does the legendary story meet the legendary, the actual what happened, right? Was he that big in Chicago? Like you went out to Simeon to see him.
If you knew high school basketball at the time, like if you really knew your shit and you really were paying attention to like these public access channels that were fucking airing these games, bro, like, yeah, bro, like that dude was, it was something else, man. Like, and like it was just a good ass time for basketball in Chicago, man. Like early 2000s, mid 2000s. But yeah, like, yeah, for sure.
So many people come out of Chicago and just don't end up playing for the Bulls, right? I think that's what's so crazy about his story. It's like, oh, you're the son, and like LeBron too, right? Like you're the son from that area, like the chosen one, right? Like he's Chicago's second son, and then he plays for the Bulls. That's crazy. Kind of like Candace. Coming back and playing for the Chicago Sky now, which is double crazy because people are like, oh, she doesn't have that much more in the tank, and then she's out here absolutely killing shit.
Yeah.
Good stuff. My big takeaway from all that is you listen to people's advice, even if it's not being told to you. Like that Bobito quote is thinking about the owner being the consumer. Hell yeah, the owner is the consumer. I never once thought of that.
Even like I went to this sneaker store opening in Montreal called Exclusivity, and Gentry Humphrey was the one that was opening the store with the owner. Not that Gentry owned it, but he was a guest speaker, or he was like the guest, or whatever you want to call it. And he was talking about just footwear tech at the time, and he always said this thing that always stuck with me. He said, "You always got to zig while everybody zags." So that's the same fucking like mentality that I kind of just. Ever since he said that, bro, like it was just implemented into my brain, and and that's just how I moved, like if you're doing this, I'm gonna do like this. If you're doing this, I'm gonna do this and this and that type shit,
And that's smart. That's what put you aside, and I think that's why so many of your followers are, there's a lot of pages that have a lot of followers online, but not a lot of engagement because it's just like old and bloated. But your stuff stays relevant, so to be able to zig when everybody else is zagging, it's just proven by the numbers, bro. I have to say thank you to you personally because you let me write on the site for a little bit, and I learned a lot from you. I think our listeners probably learned a lot. Don't be afraid. Like I think if anything, Oscar, you're not afraid to just like go message Brian and be like, hey, I want to cover Chicago. Can I, you didn't have fear. I'm sure you're afraid of spiders, but you don't have fear like that.
Nah, man. I think I kind of always, just because of what I've gone through and what I was exposed to at an early age, being in a war, like my biggest fear to this day is losing my mom. And when that stuck with me, I just kind of approached everything without fear. respect, with respect
Mm-hmm.
to,
Yeah.
but like life's too short to have fears like that, bro. Like if you want to go ahead and fucking reach out to someone, do it. If you want to go talk to that girl, do it. Because what's the worst that can happen,
The worst that happens is she asks you to buy her some Jordan 1 mids, and then you got to walk away. I'm
If the
kidding.
vibes are there, the vibes are there. If they're not, they're not, bro. But you got nothing to lose. You just got to go for
Nothing.
it.
I owe nobody. We owe nobody anything. Man,
Yeah.
Oscar, go ahead and tell the people where they can follow you. If there's anything you want to plug, go for it. But we've had a great conversation, bro. I'm so happy you came.
Bro, there's so
That's
much
what she
more.
said.
There's so much more, bro, to this.
Oh,
It's great.
we'll do a V2. We'll
There's
100%.
like volumes and stories, bro. Like this isn't enough to cover everything. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Hell no, it's not.
But,
This is just the iceberg.
Shout out to everyone listening. My name is Oscar Castillo. Follow me at Oscar_Castillo on Instagram. I don't really post much. I'm like a low key to myself guy, but you might catch a few gems here and there, Yeah.
Follow at Modern Notoriety. Go to the website, click a link,
Oh yeah, that
do
too.
something.
That too.
All of that. I got you, dog. I got you.
Appreciate you.
Well, make sure you're following at Sneaker History. This has been a fantastic interview episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Robbie. He's Oscar. Have a great day. Take it easy.
Hey everyone, this is Nick again. Before you take off, do us a solid and head over to Apple Podcasts to leave us a review. Give us a rating on Spotify and Amazon Music, and make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel because we have even more video content coming soon. Speaking of new content, we have an amazing community of sneaker enthusiasts that hang out in our Sneaker History Discord on a daily basis. While sneakers is a connection point that brought us all together, we've all discovered countless shared passions that we have in common with each other. We recently launched a couple of new podcasts directly from our community. One of them is a Formula One podcast. If you're an F1 fan like me, the Exhaust Notes podcast is your weekly fix of Formula One fun. It's hosted by myself, Rohit Malhotra, and Todd Yates. New episodes drop every Tuesday. I've been wearing fitted hats for years and collecting my favorite teams since I was a little leaguer. It has been awesome to see so many new fans getting into fitteds in recent years. Crown and Stitch is our new talk show about fitted hats with Dexter, Keith, and myself, where we talk about fitted hats, snapbacks, throw in some obscure hats because we all kind of like some funky stuff once in a while, don't we? Copping, collecting, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Hit the links in the show notes for this episode to give our new shows a listen, and be on the lookout for more new podcasts dropping soon. Last but not least, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Thank you all for the support, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.